A hushed tension blankets the waiting room of Allendale General Hospital. Emily Caldwell's life hangs in the balance as a team of surgeons fights to save her and her unborn child. But unbeknownst to her, a betrayal is unfolding down the corridor. Andrew Caldwell, her wealthy husband, clutches a freshly inked document in trembling hands, granting power of attorney to the very woman Emily despises most, his secret mistress. Within these hospital walls, the seeds of a dark conspiracy are sown. Loyalty and morality collide in an explosive drama that will test the limits of love, family, and greed in unimaginable ways. Andrew Caldwell was a man who once believed he had it all. Tall, poised, and exuding confidence, he was the kind of billionaire who appeared on business magazine covers, lauded for his sharp acumen and innovative approach to real estate development. Born into a lineage of old money and business savvy, Andrew took the generational wealth of his family and multiplied it by leaps and bounds. The Caldwell name was synonymous with power, prestige, and wealth in the city of Riverton. His wife, Emily Caldwell, was every bit his partner in life's pursuits, gracious, intelligent, and well-loved among their upper-crust social circle. She was the only child of Oliver and Margaret Cunningham, owners of a historic shipping enterprise that had once been the backbone of Riverton's economy. When Emily married Andrew, local society declared it the ultimate merger of two formidable families. Despite their affluent backgrounds, Emily liked to see herself as grounded, focusing her charitable efforts on children's hospitals and hosting philanthropic galas. She envisioned a future brimming with hope, a perfect family life, a robust philanthropic platform, and a marriage that would stand the test of time. For the first several years, it seemed her dream was coming true. Yet cracks began to form in the Caldwell marriage. Andrew's business kept him away more often than not. Late-night meetings and last-minute flights to potential development sites became routine. Emily suspected that Andrew's lengthy absences were more than just business obligations. She had questioned him a few times about a rumored mistress, but Andrew would dismiss the suggestion with a gentle, mocking laugh, as though the idea were preposterous. When Emily discovered she was pregnant, she hoped it would heal the emotional distance creeping into their marriage. She approached Andrew with boundless excitement. He responded with measured joy, though his eyes flickered with an anxiety Emily found inexplicable. Over time, he seemed to grow more restless rather than content. Still, Emily convinced herself that Andrew's nerves were a reaction to fatherhood. After all, everyone processes impending parenthood differently. In truth, Andrew's restless soul had found solace in the arms of someone else, someone with an insatiable ambition that matched his own. Her name was Sabrina Morales, a dynamic public relations consultant who began assisting Caldwell Enterprises about a year prior. Hired to manage the press for a massive development project, Sabrina soon became indispensable in Andrew's life. Her magnetic allure left Andrew enthralled. Late-night strategy sessions soon evolved into stolen kisses, which evolved into a clandestine affair. By the time Emily entered her third trimester, Andrew and Sabrina had been entangled for months. What began as an ill-advised fling had blossomed into something with terrifying implications for both his marriage and the enormous Caldwell fortune. Sabrina, fueled by her aspirations for wealth and independence, recognized Andrew's vulnerability. She manipulated his emotional state, exploiting every subtle insecurity. While Emily focused on preparing the nursery and booking prenatal classes, Andrew buried himself deeper into his secret. Torn between the woman he married and the mistress who fueled his ego, he felt trapped. Sabrina proposed an audacious idea. If Andrew would give her power of attorney, she would help him manage personal affairs, discreetly preventing any business missteps in the event Emily tried to claim full financial control once the baby was born. The suggestion was obviously precarious, but Andrew couldn't shake the persistent fear that Emily's family might intervene in his business decisions if she felt threatened. He saw Sabrina's plan as a twisted form of protection against losing his autonomy. As the day of Emily's delivery approached, tensions boiled. The prenuptial agreements and the intricacies of the Caldwell empire hung in limbo. Andrew made an appointment with his personal attorney Harold Mackenzie, a man who had seen the Caldwell family's darkest and brightest moments. Harold had known Andrew since college, but he was also thoroughly loyal to the Caldwell family name. If Harold sensed any moral compromise, Andrew might be thwarted. Instead, Andrew told Harold half-truths, claiming he needed to empower a trusted financial consultant to act on his behalf should any urgent business needs arise during Emily's high-risk pregnancy. Harold, sensing something amiss, questioned Andrew carefully. But Andrew cleverly evaded, refusing to reveal Sabrina's real role in his life or his precise intentions. He managed to persuade Harold into drafting the necessary paperwork for a power of attorney transfer. None of them imagined that everything would come to a head the moment Emily was whisked away for an emergency C-section at Allendale General Hospital. It was in that tense hospital corridor where Andrew Caldwell would sign the papers, forging a betrayal so profound it threatened to destroy everyone involved. Emily had been bedridden for over a week due to a bout of complications with her blood pressure. The doctors decided that an emergency C-section might be the safest choice for both mother and child. It was supposed to be a joyous, if nerve-wracking day, the birth of the next Caldwell heir. Sabrina was not supposed to be anywhere near the hospital, but she arrived on Andrew's invitation. Andrew rationalized that her presence was strictly professional. She would help him manage crisis communications if any unexpected complications about the baby's health went public. In reality, Sabrina had insisted on being present to ensure that Andrew went through with signing the power of attorney documents she had practically orchestrated behind the scenes. In that cold hospital corridor, the overhead fluorescent lights buzzing in the hush, Sabrina approached Andrew. She was dressed far too elegantly for a hospital environment. Her tailored suit accentuated her lithe figure, and her hair was pinned back with an air of authority. She looked more like a high-powered attorney than any consultant, especially with the folder pressed firmly under one arm. "They're taking Emily in," Sabrina said, glancing down the hallway toward the double doors of the operating room. "Now's the time." Andrew's hand trembled slightly, the pen threatening to slip from his grip. He imagined Emily on the operating table, tubes and wires connected to her, the baby's life in the balance. Guilt clawed at him. For a brief moment he contemplated tearing up the documents, but Sabrina's unwavering gaze pushed him forward. Across the corridor, Harold Mackenzie stood with a stern expression. He disliked Sabrina's presence at such a delicate family moment, but had no power to banish her, given that Andrew personally invited her. "Andrew," Harold murmured, "are you certain about this? You're about to become a father, for heaven's sake. Let's not do anything rash." Andrew swallowed hard. The tension in his throat felt like a noose. I need this done, Harold," he said quietly. "In case anything happens to me, or during the next few days, I want to ensure my business interests are protected. The last thing we need is a meltdown within Caldwell Enterprises." Harold hesitated, then extended the final papers. The gist was simple. Sabrina Morales would have extensive legal authority to handle Andrew's finances, property decisions, and sign on his behalf if he became incapacitated. Emily was nowhere on the document, which implicitly meant Sabrina had more control over Andrew's affairs than his own wife. In the background, a nurse rushed to Andrew's side. "Mr. Caldwell, your wife is asking for you before we begin," she said, somewhat out of breath. "She's in room 3 on the right." Andrew's eyes flickered to Sabrina, whose mouth tightened. He nodded curtly and turned to Harold. "Wait here," he muttered. Then he hurried off to see his wife, the pen and papers left behind in Sabrina's custody for the moment. Inside the small pre-op room, Emily lay on a hospital bed. Her face was pale but resolute. The monitors beeped a steady rhythm, and an IV line snaked into her arm. "Andrew," she managed weakly. "Where were you? I'm so scared." He took her hand, and for a moment, his heart pounded with genuine love. This was the woman he once promised to cherish above all else. "I'm right here," he whispered, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "Everything will be fine. The doctors are the best in the city." Emily's eyes brimmed with tears. "Promise me, no matter what happens, you'll take care of our baby. Promise me you'll love him or her the way we always dreamed." "I promise," Andrew said. In that moment, he meant it wholeheartedly. She was about to give birth to his child, and he was knee-deep in betrayal. How had he become this man? A nurse signaled that they needed to begin the procedure. Emily nodded at Andrew. "Go. You'll come in after they prep me." He squeezed her hand. "I'll be close." The moment Andrew stepped out of the room, Sabrina cornered him. "We need to finalize this now," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Emily just went in. Andrew snapped, suddenly furious with himself and with Sabrina. "She needs me in there. This can wait." "It can't," Sabrina retorted. "Harold is already here. Once Emily has that baby, your in-laws might push for changes in your estate planning. We agreed you would protect yourself first. You told me you needed that security." Andrew felt the tension coiled in his gut. He motioned for Harold to bring the documents. Then, leaning against the wall, he signed each page in quick, messy strokes. The nurse who had come to fetch him for the OR served as the unwitting witness to his signature, too hurried to question the significance of the legal text. With a final swirl of ink, the deed was done. As Sabrina's eyes lit with triumph, Andrew reeled. He felt an invisible chain linking him to Sabrina, and for the first time, he realized just how precarious his position was. With that single flourish of a pen, he had shifted the entire axis of his marriage, his business, and his future. They called Andrew into the operating room a few moments later. The door swung shut behind him, leaving Sabrina in the hall with the newly executed power of attorney. She ran a manicured finger along the edges of the document, a small, triumphant smile tugging at her lips. In the OR, Andrew struggled to focus on the baby's birth. The beep of the machines and the muffled instructions of the medical team washed over him like static. His head was buzzing with thoughts of what he had just done. If Emily pulled through this, when Emily pulled through this, what would she say if she found out he couldn't allow the truth to surface? Not now, not ever. The scalpel glinted under the bright surgical lights. Emily groaned softly, her eyes filled with equal parts terror and hope. Andrew held her hand, letting her squeeze his fingers to a pulp. "You're going to be a mum soon," Andrew murmured, voice shaking. She gave him a weak smile that cracked his heart. At that moment, Andrew felt certain he had made a deal with the devil. The baby's cry cut through the still air like a beacon of light. It was a boy, tiny, pink, and precious. A wave of relief swept through the operating team as Dr. Maria Contreras announced, "He's healthy. Congratulations." Emily turned her head to look at Andrew, tears shining in her eyes. "We have a son," she whispered, voice quivering. Andrew's own eyes blurred. For a fleeting instant, the mania in his life disappeared. There were no secrets, no betrayal, no legal documents, just a new, fragile life that needed love and protection. Emily was wheeled into a recovery room afterward. Due to her preeclampsia and the strains of the surgery, the medical team wanted to monitor her closely. Andrew stayed at her side, their newborn baby swaddled in a pastel blanket. Nurse Carla Johnson offered a tired but warm smile. "He's a strong one," she assured them, checking the baby's vitals. "He'll do just fine." Emily drifted in and out of consciousness, clutching Andrew's hand when she was awake. Andrew pretended there was no hurried clandestine deal made, just moments before their child's birth. He tried to relish the miracle of fatherhood, ignoring the dark deed still fresh on his mind. In the hallway, Sabrina texted someone on her phone, a triumphant grin on her face. She and Andrew had agreed they would keep her involvement quiet, but Sabrina had other ideas. She didn't want to remain a background figure in Andrew's life. Now, with power of attorney, she saw a path to controlling not just Andrew, but a slice of the Caldwell empire itself. Harold observed from a distance, uneasy. Something about Sabrina's demeanor unsettled him. Her confidence, her unwavering presence at a time of such personal significance, and her subtle but unmistakable aura of ownership over Andrew. Harold suspected that Andrew was in deeper trouble than he realized. Oliver and Margaret Cunningham arrived at the hospital soon after rushing into the waiting area. They demanded updates and were relieved to hear both Emily and the baby were healthy. Oliver, a stern but affectionate father, breathed a sigh of relief, hugging Andrew briefly. "When can I see my daughter? They're taking her to recovery. She's stable," Andrew replied, forcing a thin smile. Oliver frowned at Sabrina, who lingered nearby. "Who's this?" "She's a consultant," Andrew answered hastily. Sabrina offered a practiced handshake. "Sabrina Morales. I've been assisting Andrew with some urgent business matters. Pleasure to meet you." Oliver's eyes narrowed. "The only urgent matter now is my daughter. Business can wait." Sabrina simply nodded, her expression unreadable. A flicker of annoyance danced across her face at Oliver's dismissive tone. Once Emily was awake and coherent, her parents were allowed in to see her. Oliver's stern demeanor evaporated the moment he saw Emily exhausted, but safe in bed, cradling the baby. He and Margaret took turns holding their grandson, tears of joy running down their cheeks. Andrew excused himself, stepping into the hallway with Harold. "I need you to keep all this under wraps," Andrew muttered. "I can't have any talk of power of attorney or documents swirling around Emily right now. She must focus on recovering." Harold gave him a pointed look. "Andrew, this is insane. You're handing your entire life over to Sabrina Morales. Do you even know her background, who she's affiliated with?" Andrew stiffened. "She's brilliant. She's done wonders for the company's PR. Now isn't the time, Harold." Harold sighed, raking a hand through his graying hair. "I've served the Caldwell family for decades, Andrew, but I've never seen such a reckless move. If Emily or her parents discover what you've done, the fallout, I'll handle it," Andrew cut in desperation, evident in his tone. A hush fell between them. The mechanical whir of the hallway's ventilation system filled the silence. Andrew retreated into the waiting room where Sabrina stood, phone in hand. She locked eyes with him, a silent message passing between them. The line of no return had been crossed. Inside Emily's recovery room, Margaret fussed over her daughter. "Are you comfortable, sweetheart? Need anything?" We'll hire the best postpartum nurse for you. Emily glanced toward the door, wondering where Andrew had gone. She felt the faint stirrings of anxiety. She was too exhausted to put her finger on it, but something about the day's events unsettled her, like a silent alarm humming in the back of her mind, telling her that a part of Andrew's spirit was absent. She shrugged the thought off, focusing instead on the sleeping infant in her arms. Andrew would never betray her on the day of their child's birth, or so she believed. In the days that followed, Emily remained in the hospital for observation. Andrew, torn between fatherly duties and guilt, spent hours by her bedside, holding the baby and trying to appear like the devoted husband. Sabrina alternated between leaving discreetly and reappearing when the hallway was empty. She relished every moment Andrew stepped out of Emily's room to speak with her. It gave her a twisted sense of victory. The newborn, whom Emily and Andrew named Oliver Thomas Caldwell, or Ollie for short, became the center of every conversation. Emily cooed over him, trying to memorize every feature of his tiny face. She fantasized about their future, a big house filled with laughter, Andrew teaching Ollie to ride a bicycle, and holidays spent as a loving family. Yet an undercurrent of tension was palpable, especially when Oliver Cunningham or Margaret were present. They noticed Sabrina's frequent appearances at the hospital and challenged Andrew about it. Andrew mumbled excuses about urgent corporate matters, but Oliver grew increasingly unconvinced. One afternoon, while Emily dozed off, Oliver cornered Andrew in the hallway. "I want the truth," Andrew Oliver demanded. "Why is that woman prowling around here day and night? Is there some crisis with Caldwell Enterprises?" Andrew stiffened. "Dad," he caught himself. He seldom called Oliver Dad, and the word felt awkward, but he wanted to maintain civility. "Sabrina is just a PR consultant. We're finalizing the Ridgefield Tower project. Investors are antsy. She's been updating me because I'm away from the office." Oliver studied Andrew's face. "If that's all it is, then fine. But Emily needs rest, and I don't want business interfering with her recovery. Please keep Sabrina away unless it's absolutely critical." Andrew forced a thin smile. "I understand." Inside, a tide of anger rose. How dare Oliver try to dictate his business arrangements? Harold Mackenzie also hovered, occasionally checking in to see if Andrew was ready to talk about next steps with the newly signed power of attorney. They exchanged terse phone calls with Andrew, avoiding details at all costs. Meanwhile, Margaret tried to cheer up Emily, sensing her unspoken worries. "You look thoughtful, dear," Margaret commented one evening as she rearranged flowers on the hospital windowsill. Emily nodded slowly. "Just postpartum blues, I guess. But something about Andrew is off. It's like he's here, but not really." She refused to vocalize her darkest fear that Andrew might be seeing another woman. She didn't want to cast a shadow over the joy of Ollie's birth. "I'm just tired," she added, forcing a smile. The only thing that brought Emily complete solace was holding Ollie, yet she couldn't shake the sense that her once-perfect marriage was crumbling. She recalled the rumors, the hushed whispers at country club gatherings, how Andrew seemed too close to Sabrina, how they'd been seen alone in corners at events. Emily had confronted Andrew once, but he convinced her it was purely professional. But if that was true, why was Sabrina so present now, while Emily was at her most vulnerable? As the days passed, Emily grew stronger and was finally discharged. Oliver and Margaret arranged for Emily and the baby to return to the Cunningham estate, where they could have round-the-clock care. Andrew, in a surprising move, agreed. He told Emily he would join her there after a day or two of crucial business meetings. "I just need to settle a few things at the office," he explained, brushing a kiss across her forehead. Emily's heart clenched. She sensed that once Andrew left her side, he might drift even further away. But she was too weak and overwhelmed to fight it. She accepted his explanation, hoping that going back to her childhood home would at least provide comfort and emotional support. When Emily departed the hospital, Sabrina was conspicuously absent. Andrew had arranged a car for her an hour prior, whisking her away to the Caldwell penthouse. He promised he'd meet her there soon to discuss next steps for consolidating his assets. The entire ordeal felt surreal. He was now living a double life, balancing fatherhood and a mistress, juggling paternal obligations and ruthless legal maneuvers. That night, Andrew slept alone in the hospital's father's suite near Emily's vacated room. He stared at the empty hospital bed, swirling in remorse and confusion. The weight of the power of attorney he granted Sabrina felt like a lead anchor. The hush of the corridor was broken only by the steady hum of hospital equipment. In the swirl of half-lit gloom, Andrew closed his eyes and wondered which version of himself would wake up in the morning, a father devoted to his wife or a desperate man controlled by his mistress. 2 days after Emily and the baby settled at the Cunningham estate, Andrew returned to the Caldwell penthouse. He'd barely walked through the front door when Sabrina came sweeping down the grand spiral staircase, wearing an expensive silk robe and a triumphant smile. "Welcome home," she purred, arms outstretched. Andrew set down his briefcase, tension visible in his shoulders. "Don't make it sound like this is your place," he said brusquely. "You're here on my invitation, nothing more." Sabrina's lips curved into a smirk. "And yet legally, I have more authority here than even you do if anything were to happen to you." Andrew glared. "Don't push it." But Sabrina already had. The moment she gained power of attorney, she began to quietly shift some of Andrew's finances. She convinced him it was for better tax efficiencies and fiscal streamlining. In truth, Sabrina was funneling money into accounts that only she could access under shell corporations she'd set up. If Andrew ever discovered these diversions, it would be too late. Sabrina planned to be long gone, or better yet, enthroned as the puppet master of the Caldwell Empire. Inside the penthouse office, a panorama of the city glittered through floor-to-ceiling windows. Sabrina laid out a flurry of spreadsheets and documents. "We need to authorize transfers for the Redwood Heights expansion, finalize the new PR campaign for the Caldwell brand," and Andrew rubbed his temples. "Let's slow down. My wife just had an emergency C-section. My mind is all over the place." Sabrina's eyes flashed with impatience. "Which is why you need me to handle the details. You have the power to delegate. Use it." She pressed the documents into his hands, pointing to where he needed to initial. Each signature felt like a noose tightening around Andrew's neck. He wanted to stop, but the momentum Sabrina created was overwhelming. His phone buzzed. Emily. Guilt seized him. He hesitated, torn between finishing the paperwork with Sabrina and talking to his wife. In that tiny pause, Sabrina leaned forward, her voice losing its edge. "Take it," she said quietly. "It's your wife. Appear normal." "It's what we agreed." Andrew answered the call. Emily's voice sounded warm but tinged with concern. "How are things, Andrew? We miss you here. Ollie's fussing a lot, and I could really use some help." A pang of regret clenched his chest. I'm sorry, Emily. The Redwood Heights deal is blowing up. I'll try to wrap it up and be there in a day or so." Silence on the other end. Then Emily's soft sigh. "All right, I understand. Dad and Mum have been helpful, but I really want you to be here." Andrew felt like a monster. "I'll come as soon as I can. I promise." He disconnected, aware that Sabrina stood just inches away listening. She slid a hand over his shoulder, a cunning mixture of sympathy and possessiveness. "It's for the best," Sabrina purred. "That place is full of prying eyes. We're safer here." Andrew pulled away, swallowing a bitter taste in his mouth. Over the next few days, Andrew and Sabrina worked in tandem, signing countless documents, shifting money, and managing the Caldwell empire from behind the scenes. Whenever Andrew hesitated or questioned a transaction, Sabrina countered with logical-sounding explanations. Her knowledge of corporate structures and media spin was frighteningly comprehensive. Meanwhile, Emily grew suspicious. Andrew's texts were curt, and his calls were infrequent. She tried to be patient, telling herself that it was a critical time for Caldwell Enterprises. Yet seeds of doubt sprouted. Her father, Oliver, noticed her distress and offered to investigate discreetly. Emily refused, fearful of driving a wedge between Andrew and her parents. Still, that fear couldn't hush the small voice in her heart that whispered, "Andrew is lying." On a cool Thursday evening, as Emily rocked Ollie to sleep, she scrolled through social media to distract herself. An acquaintance, James Whitmore, had posted pictures from an upscale hotel lounge. One image showed Andrew and Sabrina sitting intimately close, glasses of champagne in hand, oblivious to the camera. Emily's heart stopped. The photo was captioned, "Spotted Caldwell Empire, making deals with the hottest PR guru in town. Sabrina Morales, looks like the Redwood Heights project is a go." Emily's mind roared. The rumors about Sabrina, the hush-hush visits, Andrew's absence right after her surgery, it all converged into a brutal realization. Sabrina wasn't just a consultant. Emily trembled so violently that she nearly dropped Ollie. "Shh, it's okay," she cooed, trying to calm her son, even as her own heart thundered in her chest. Tears blurred her vision, but anger ignited inside her. She needed to get to the bottom of this. She dialed Andrew's phone, but it went straight to voicemail. Then she tried Harold Mackenzie. He answered on the third ring, sounding harried. "Emily," Harold said, startled. "Is everything all right?" "No, Harold. It's not," Emily replied, struggling to keep her composure. "I saw photos. Andrew is with that woman Sabrina. I need to know if anything unusual is happening with Caldwell Enterprises." "With Andrew, please." Harold hesitated. Ethically, he was Andrew's attorney, but he also felt loyalty toward the Caldwells as a whole, especially Emily. "Emily, Andrew would have to explain any changes in the company, not me." Her tone hardened. "Harold, I'm not asking for trade secrets. I'm asking if Andrew did something drastic, something that threatens our family. If you know anything at all, you need to tell me. My father is about to pull resources if he suspects trouble." Harold pictured the power of attorney documents now locked in his office safe. The betrayal was so massive, it made him nauseous. He cleared his throat. "Emily, I suggest you come see me in my office. Privately." Her eyes flickered with new determination. "Tomorrow. First thing." They ended the call, and Emily stood by the window in the nursery, looking down at the meticulously manicured Cunningham Estate gardens. In her arms, Ollie breathed softly, oblivious to the turmoil. Emily kissed his tiny forehead, murmuring, "I'll protect you. Whatever it takes, Mommy will protect you." The next morning, Emily woke with renewed resolve. She handed Ollie to her mother, who assured her she would watch him for a few hours. Steeling her nerves, Emily drove herself to Harold's downtown law office in the heart of Riverton. Harold greeted her with a tense smile. "Emily, come in." He closed the door behind her and gestured for her to sit on a plush leather chair across from his mahogany desk. Emily's eyes scanned the office. She had visited Harold often in the past, usually for routine matters like signing trust documents or philanthropic agreements. The atmosphere had never felt this heavy before. Harold, she began, taking a measured breath. I need you to be candid with me. This is my family we're talking about. He sighed, fiddling with his gold pen. Emily, I'm in a difficult position. I'm Andrew's attorney of record, and attorney-client privilege is something I take very seriously. However, I also have a duty to the Caldwell family, and this, he gestured vaguely to the safe, behind him, feels morally corrupt. Emily's stomach clenched. What did Andrew do? Harold opened the safe, retrieving a manila folder. He placed it on his desk, hesitating one final moment before sliding it toward Emily. She opened the folder with trembling fingers. A few lines in her eyes widened in horror. Power of attorney to Sabrina Morales, she whispered. Harold nodded, his expression pained. It gives her sweeping control over Andrew's finances, assets, essentially the entire Caldwell empire, if Andrew is deemed unable to act on his own behalf. He signed it the day you were in surgery. A wave of betrayal crashed over Emily, leaving her momentarily breathless. The room swam, and she fought back tears. He did this while I was risking my life. Having our child, Harold spoke quietly. Andrew told me it was just a precaution in case of emergencies. He insisted Sabrina was a trusted advisor, but from what I've seen, she's more than that. I tried to warn him. He seemed desperate or manipulated. Emily's face burned with anger, heartbreak, and a fierce protectiveness for her newborn son. Does he realize what this means? That she could control our family business? She pounded her fist on the desk, causing the pen holder to rattle. How could he do this to me? To our child? Harold looked down, unable to meet her gaze. I believe Andrew is in over his head, Emily. He's rationalizing that Sabrina's expertise is beneficial, but no man in his right mind hands over power of attorney to a mistress unless he's being coerced. Emily shut the folder, a steely determination setting into her features. She refused to let tears fall. So what are my options? My father has resources. We can fight back, revoke the power of attorney. We can file a suit. It's not that simple, Harold cautioned. Legally, Andrew has every right to designate whomever he pleases for his power of attorney. To challenge it, you'd need to prove Andrew was incompetent under duress or that Sabrina defrauded him. It could become a prolonged legal battle, especially if Andrew stands by her side. Emily's heart clenched. She felt physically ill imagining Andrew defending his mistress in court. There must be a way, she said, quietly. Harold rubbed his temples. If you can gather evidence that Sabrina is manipulating or misusing funds, that might be grounds to void the document. But you'd need proof. Bank transfers, fraudulent deals, anything that demonstrates Sabrina's bad faith or that Andrew didn't fully understand the ramifications. Emily nodded grimly. I'll find a way. Thank you, Harold, for showing me this. He watched her stand, her posture stiff and resolute. Emily, be cautious. Sabrina is cunning and Andrew is emotionally compromised. She gave a bitter laugh. Compromised is one way to put it. With that, she swept out of Harold's office, manila folder clutched in her hand like a weapon. As Emily drove away, her mind raced. Andrew's betrayal was deeper than infidelity. It was a financial and emotional scorched earth policy. She imagined Sabrina perched in the Caldwell penthouse, rummaging through Andrew's life like a vulture. The mental image made Emily's blood boil. She remembered a snippet of conversation she'd overheard at a gala months earlier. Someone had mentioned Sabrina's shady connections. Emily hadn't paid attention then, but now she vowed to unearth every detail. If Sabrina thought she could steal Emily's marriage and child's inheritance, she was gravely mistaken. By the time Emily reached the Cunningham estate, Her plan was forming. She would confront Andrew, demand an explanation. But not until she had evidence. Emily intended to protect her son and secure the family legacy with or without Andrew's cooperation. Emily waited a day, gathering her composure and caring for Ollie before confronting Andrew. During that time, she scoured online records, searching for any hint of Sabrina's questionable background. She found suspicious companies linked to Sabrina's name, shell entities LLCs with no clear purpose. The deeper Emily dug, the clearer it became that Sabrina was systematically positioning herself to siphon money. Meanwhile, Andrew dodged Emily's calls. He claimed to be in back-to-back meetings, citing the Redwood Heights project as more problematic than anticipated. Emily wasn't fooled. She suspected Sabrina was feeding him lines to keep him away. But Andrew's paternal guilt finally got the better of him, and he agreed to meet Emily at the Cunningham estate one chilly morning. He arrived looking haggard eyes, rimmed with exhaustion. Emily wasted no time. She ushered him into her father's study, the one room in the house that guaranteed privacy. Floor-to-ceiling bookshelves lined the walls, and a crackling fireplace cast dancing shadows. Emily Andrew began taking a tentative step toward her. "How are you? How's Ollie?" She stared at him, fury boiling beneath her cool exterior. "He's fine, Andrew. He's a newborn without his father." "How do you think he is?" Andrew swallowed hard. "I've been busy." "Oh, I know exactly how busy you've been," Emily snapped. She tossed the manila folder onto an antique desk. "Power of attorney to Sabrina Morales. Signed the day I was undergoing surgery." "Are you out of your mind?" Andrew's face blanched. He looked away, unable to meet her accusing gaze. "Who told you about that? That doesn't matter. What matters is that you chose your mistress over your family." He tried to interrupt, but Emily pressed on, voice trembling with anger. "Do you realize what you've done? She could bleed you dry, seize control of Caldwell Enterprises, ruin our family's reputation, and you signed off on it." Andrew struggled to find words. "It's not what you think," he began weakly. "Sabrina is just helping me manage urgent deals. My name still stands on everything. It's just in case something happens." "Don't feed me that nonsense. Harold told me it's legally binding and extremely broad. You gave her more power than you'd ever give me or anyone in your own family." Emily's eyes brimmed with tears she refused to shed. "I nearly died giving birth to our son Andrew, and you rewarded me with this betrayal." A stunned silence stretched between them. Andrew reached out, but she recoiled. "Emily, I never wanted to hurt you." "Don't," she spat, stepping back. "You think I'm just going to stand by while Sabrina tears apart our lives? Think again. I'm going to fight you and her if you don't come to your senses right now." Andrew's shoulders slumped. "I can't revoke it. It's complicated. Sabrina she's expecting me to—" Emily's voice rose. "Expecting you to do what? Turn over every asset you have, abandon your wife and child. Haven't you done enough already?" He stared at the rug, shame and confusion swirling in his eyes. For a moment, Emily wondered if the Andrew she married was trapped somewhere inside this man's conflicted soul. "I don't know how to fix it," he murmured. "I'm in too deep." Emily clenched her fists. Inhaling slowly, her father's words rang in her mind. People in crisis sometimes need a push to do the right thing. She let out a shaky breath. "Listen, I have evidence. Sabrina is funneling money. If we can prove it, we can void the power of attorney. We can make this right. But you need to help me." Andrew's expression flickered. He glanced at the folder, then back at Emily. "You have proof, not solid yet, but I'm close. If you give me access to your banking portals, everything you've signed with Sabrina, I can help you." We can bring it to the board of Caldwell Enterprises, to the authorities if we must." He hesitated, torment written across his face. "And then what? We expose Sabrina. She'll retaliate. You don't know how cunning she can be." Emily's eyes hardened. "You should have thought of that before. I'm giving you one chance to redeem yourself for the sake of our son. If you won't stand with me, I'll do it alone." Andrew exhaled, tears glimmering behind his eyes. "All right," he whispered. "I'll give you everything you need. But please, Emily, understand that I never intended to hurt you. I was just afraid of losing control." Emily felt a pang in her chest. She wanted to fling her arms around him and forgive him, but the damage was too severe. "It's not about me forgiving you," she said icily. "It's about saving what's left of our future, if we even have one." As she watched Andrew shuffle out of the study, shoulders sagging, Emily's heart warred between fury and a distant, lingering love. But she couldn't afford tenderness now. Sabrina had planted herself in Andrew's life like a parasitic vine. Emily intended to cut her out, no matter what it took. Later that evening, Emily was in the nursery, rocking Ollie while scanning Andrew's bank statements on her tablet. She was stunned at the breadth of Sabrina's infiltration transfers of hundreds of thousands of dollars to unfamiliar accounts. There were also questionable billing statements for consulting services Sabrina provided, which totaled amounts that Emily knew far exceeded standard PR fees. Emily forwarded these files to Harold as potential legal ammunition. Suddenly, her phone buzzed Andrew. She answered in a hush, mindful of the sleeping baby. "Yes, Emily," Andrew whispered, his voice tense. "Sabrina found out we talked. She's threatening me. She says if I revoke her power of attorney or try anything, she'll release private information about our family and ruin us in the media." Emily's stomach flipped. "What kind of information?" Andrew paused. "I don't know. She claims she has recordings of me, private conversations about insider deals. She could paint it as corporate fraud. She might even fabricate evidence to implicate me. My career, my freedom. I could lose everything. We could lose everything." Emily pressed her lips together, a wave of icy fear washing over her. She forced herself to remain calm. "We can't let fear stop us. The more you let her blackmail you, the stronger she gets." "I know," Andrew murmured, "but I'm terrified. I'm sorry. I made a horrible mistake." Emily clenched her jaw. "I'll talk to Harold. We'll handle the legal angle. For now, play along. Don't let her suspect you're cooperating with me." She ended the call, dread curling in her gut. Sabrina was bolder than Emily had anticipated. If Sabrina had truly recorded Andrew discussing illegal or unethical practices, this could escalate. Emily's mind raced, considering every scenario. She needed more support, someone discreet yet powerful enough to counter Sabrina's blackmail. Someone who could investigate, gather evidence, and protect Andrew from sabotage. She dialed a name she hadn't contacted in years, Detective Aaron Patterson. He was an old friend from her volunteer work with children's shelters. They had once collaborated on a missing person case involving a runaway teen. Over time, they'd lost touch, but Emily knew he was now a reputable private investigator with a knack for high-stakes corporate espionage cases. The next morning, Emily invited Detective Patterson to a private lunch at a quiet cafe. She left Ollie in Margaret's care, promising to be back soon. Patterson arrived in plain clothes, a stocky man with perceptive eyes and a calm demeanor. Emily Caldwell, he greeted, offering a polite handshake. "It's been a while. You look, well, not exactly relaxed." She sighed, launching into the whole ordeal. Patterson listened intently, taking notes on a small pad. When she finished, he leaned back. So your husband signed over power of attorney to his mistress, who's now blackmailing him with alleged recordings of insider deals? Emily nodded, face grim. Patterson whistled softly. That's quite a situation. Legally, I can't force her to turn over anything unless we have enough evidence to get law enforcement involved. But I can investigate her background, track her financial activities, see if we can corner her or at least neutralize the threat. Emily's eyes flickered with hope. That's exactly what I need. Any cost. Just do it. He scribbled more notes. I'll look into her shell companies, see who's behind them. If we find a direct link to organized fraud or embezzlement, that could be your golden ticket to overturn the POA. Also, we might gain leverage to scare her off. Emily exhaled, relief and anxiety mingling in her chest. Thank you. I'm desperate. Patterson offered a reassuring nod. I'll be in touch soon. Meanwhile, at the Caldwell penthouse, Sabrina's wrath was unleashed upon Andrew. You think I'm stupid, she snarled, pacing the living room in a fury. I know you gave Emily access to your accounts. I can see what's being pulled. Are you actually trying to sabotage me? Andrew stood near the window, wearing the same unyielding expression he used in hostile board meetings. I told Emily nothing. She's obviously suspicious on her own. You can't blame me for that. Sabrina's eyes narrowed. Don't lie to me, Andrew. I can ruin you if you cross me. I have enough dirt to send you to jail. The only reason I haven't is because I still have plans for you and for Caldwell Enterprises. Andrew clenched his jaw. What exactly do you want Sabrina money influence? You can't keep threatening me forever. She stepped closer, her breath hot with anger. I want power. Real power. I've worked my entire life to escape the rat race, to stand on my own. Caldwell Enterprises is my ticket. With or without you, I'm not leaving empty-handed. Andrew felt a chill run through him. Sabrina was no mere gold digger. She was a predator who saw the Caldwell Empire as her personal stepping stone. He realized, belatedly, that he was the fool who'd opened the gates. Sabrina turned to the door. I have a meeting with your CFO in an hour. Don't even think about pulling any more stunts. She grabbed her designer purse and swept out, leaving Andrew with the unsettling knowledge that his life was no longer his own. Detective Patterson worked quickly. Within days, he uncovered that Sabrina Morales had an alias, Sabrina Montez, and a history of short-lived PR stints at companies where large sums of money mysteriously vanished. She left each place amid scandal, though never formally charged with a crime. Each time her name was listed on legal documents granting her varying levels of financial authority. But like a phantom, she always slipped away before law enforcement could pin anything on her. Emily felt both disgusted and renewed in her resolve. With Patterson's findings, she and Harold Mackenzie drafted a plan to confront Sabrina legally. They would gather enough evidence of her illicit activities, bank fraud, misrepresentation, possible blackmail, and use it to nullify the power of attorney. In tandem, they prepared a hush-hush injunction filing, which, if successful, would freeze any major transfers from Caldwell accounts. Andrew, in the meantime, played the dutiful puppet. Sabrina believed she still controlled him through threats, unaware that he was quietly funneling evidence back to Emily. The tension in the penthouse grew with each passing day as Andrew began to question Sabrina's decisions more openly. She responded by doubling down on her threats, brandishing incomplete audio clips of their intimate conversations to remind him who held the real power. Andrew felt his sanity slipping, yearning for the day Emily's plan would come to fruition. At the Cunningham estate, Emily immersed herself in motherhood, drawing strength from Ollie's innocent presence. Late at night, as he dozed in his crib, she would pore over documents with a new mother's determination, refusing to let her child's future be hijacked by a manipulative outsider. Finally, the critical moment arrived. Harold secured an emergency hearing before a sympathetic judge. Detective Patterson's partial but compelling dossier on Sabrina's background and suspicious financial movements formed the basis of their argument. Andrew was ready to testify that Sabrina had used coercion, though that admission would risk his own legal vulnerabilities. Still, Emily urged him to do the right thing. Before the hearing, Emily arranged a meeting at Harold's office, calling Andrew and Sabrina to attend under the guise of a business update. Sabrina arrived looking cautious but curious. She sensed Emily's presence meant a shift, yet her arrogance propelled her forward. She believed she still had the trump card of blackmail over Andrew. They gathered in the conference room, Emily, Andrew, Sabrina, Harold, and Detective Patterson in plain clothes. Sabrina eyed Patterson dismissively as if he were a random staff member. Harold cleared his throat. "Thank you all for coming. We have important matters to discuss regarding Caldwell Enterprises and the future structure of its leadership." Sabrina flashed a cool smile. "I'm glad you finally came around, Emily. I'm sure once we align, everything will go smoothly." Emily's expression was impassive. She clicked a button on a laptop, projecting a series of documents on a screen. "Sabrina, could you explain these transactions?" She pointed to a chart detailing significant wire transfers to shell corporations in the Bahamas. Sabrina's smile faltered. "Those are routine offshore accounts, perfectly legal." Detective Patterson spoke up. "Actually, we traced those accounts. They're connected to your alias, Sabrina Montez, and a defunct PR firm accused of fraud last year." Andrew watched Sabrina's face blanch. She recovered quickly. "I don't know what you're talking about," Harold chimed in. "We also have reason to believe you forged Andrew Caldwell's digital signature on at least 2 of these transfers. That's a crime, Ms. Morales." Sabrina's composure cracked. "This is an ambush. Andrew, I can't believe you're letting them do this." Andrew kept his gaze steady, though his voice trembled. "Sabrina, you forced my hand. I should never have given you that power of attorney. I'm revoking it." She scoffed, turning her glare on Emily. "You think you can just revoke it? You'll need legal grounds. A judge's order. And guess what? I have proof. Andrew's engaged in insider trading. He's going to lose everything, including custody of that baby, if I release it." Emily's hands balled into fists. "No, Sabrina. You're going to lose everything. We have enough evidence to get an injunction. Even if you release your so-called recordings, they'll be overshadowed by your own criminal activity." Detective Patterson stepped forward. "Ms. Morales, I advise you to cooperate. Providing false evidence or blackmailing Andrew Caldwell only adds to your legal jeopardy." A tense silence filled the room. Sabrina looked to Andrew, fury and betrayal etched into her features. She realized the tide had turned. She might have continued bluffing if not for the presence of Detective Patterson, the reams of documented evidence, and Harold's unwavering legal authority. She narrowed her eyes. "You'll regret this," she hissed at Andrew, snatching her handbag and storming out. Emily exhaled. Andrew sank into a chair, covering his face with his hands. Harold nodded solemnly. "The next step is to file the petition to revoke the power of attorney on grounds of fraud and duress." Detective Patterson rose, slipping a card into Emily's hand. "I'll keep an eye on Sabrina. With her track record, she might attempt something desperate before the hearing." Emily forced a brave smile, though her nerves were alight with anxiety. She couldn't believe it had come to this, a brutal confrontation in a conference room exposing the darkest side of her marriage. But there was no time to dwell on regrets. She had a son to protect and a fortune to save. The real battle would take place in the courtroom. And if Sabrina was half as cunning as Emily believed, this was far from over. The courtroom buzzed with tension. Emily and Andrew entered side by side, flanked by Harold Mackenzie and Detective Patterson. Across the aisle sat Sabrina Morales, poised in a sharp black suit, her face unreadable. She'd hired a notorious defense attorney, signaling this would be a ruthless battle. Judge Judith Templeton began without delay. This court will now review the motion to revoke power of attorney based on fraud and coercion. Harold opened with a concise summary of Sabrina's fraudulent history, supported by documents and Detective Patterson's investigation. Andrew followed, voice low but clear, admitting he had been manipulated into signing the document under emotional duress while his wife underwent emergency surgery. He confessed to the affair, his shame evident. Sabrina's attorney launched a fierce rebuttal, claiming the documents were signed willingly, and painted Andrew and Emily as vindictive elites. He cited recordings as supposed proof of insider trading, but offered no full context. Emily took the stand last. Her voice was calm but resolute. "Your Honor, I was fighting for my life and my child's when that document was signed. Sabrina exploited my husband's fear. This is not about revenge. It's about protecting my family." Judge Templeton listened intently, eyes softening at the mention of Emily's C-section. When Sabrina testified, she denied everything, but under pressure, stumbled over questions about the shell companies tied to her name. By day's end, the judge ruled in Emily's favor. The power of attorney was revoked. There was sufficient suspicion of coercion, fraud, and misuse of fiduciary responsibility. Sabrina was to be investigated for criminal misconduct. Outside, camera flashes erupted as Sabrina stormed out, vowing, "You'll regret this." Emily and Andrew stood quietly together, battered but relieved. Andrew whispered, "I'm sorry." She turned to him, voice steady. "We'll talk. But if you're truly ready to rebuild for Ollie's sake, we start one day at a time." Weeks later, Sabrina vanished from public view as legal probes intensified. Emily joined the Caldwell board, determined to protect the family business. She and Andrew began therapy, both facing their failures head-on. Their marriage had been fractured, but in the aftermath, Emily emerged not just as a survivor, but as the protector of her family's future. Thank you for joining us on this gripping journey of love, betrayal, and redemption. In the face of unimaginable treachery, Emily Caldwell stood firm, driven by her devotion to her newborn son and the desire to save her marriage. This story shows us that even the most lavish wealth and powerful reputations can crumble when loyalty wavers and secrets abound. And yet, from the ashes of deceit, new beginnings can emerge. If this story kept you on the edge of your seat, don't forget to show your support. Click the like button, share it with friends who love a good real-life drama, and subscribe to our channel to catch more thrilling tales. Your engagement helps us continue bringing you powerful stories that resonate, intrigue, and inspire. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.